everyone. We're going to get started. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. We appreciate you taking the time out of your week, out of your day to join us. To begin, we can introduce ourselves so you have a better idea of who's providing you information tonight. My name is Shannon Bangen, and I'm the Director of Orientation here at MSU. I'm originally from Missoula, Montana, so I was born and raised in the best state ever. I attended MSU, and I've worked in the Office of Admissions professionally for about 4 years now. In my role as Director of Orientation, I essentially oversee all of our summer orientation and spring orientation programs. So we're really excited to tell you about our plans for this summer. And I'll let Holly introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Holly Hillis. I'm the program coordinator for orientation. I'm originally from Sacramento, California, and then I also came here for school, and I've been working in the Office of Admissions for about 2 years. And in my role as program coordinator, I do some of the behind the scenes things for orientation. So if you call us or email us, it might be me answering. So nice to see you guys tonight.
And we did include our contact information there, so you can always contact us directly, or you can always email orientation@montana.edu. With any technical help this evening, we do also have the event number listed and the password. So if anyone's having any technical difficulties, you can always use any of these lines to log in. And you can also use the chat feature to chat in and chat with our admissions counselors so they can help you through any of that technical help. That chat feature is also going to be available. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to put it in there and we'll be answering them live at the end. I did want to mention that there are some folks that aren't on the line this evening. Of course, Holly and I are a big part of the team, but a much more significant part of our team is going to be our orientation leaders. We hire about 30 orientation leaders throughout the year to help with orientation. That can be anything from assisting students with class registration, being a peer mentor, answering questions about what it's like to be a student here, directing you to different services and resources. And so our students will be helping with both the online components of orientation, but also the in-person components. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. So in terms of the general mission and vision of the orientation program, orientation is a campus-wide effort. It's not just our team or just the orientation leaders, but it's ultimately all of our offices across campus. And it's our effort to build the foundation for your success here at MSU. So that's everything from the academic side of things all the way through to the personal and extracurricular side of things as well. It's ultimately our vision that we set students up with a lot of confidence, so they have a lot of knowledge to rely on to make sure that they're set up for success in their first semester, but they're also ready to jump into their courses for the next 4 years. The big piece of orientation is the second part of our title. It's class registration. And so essentially orientation serves as the introduction to getting you set up for success, but also getting you registered for your first semester of courses here at MSU. When we look at the format for this summer, I'll mention that traditionally orientation takes place in person and it's on campus. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've become a little bit creative in our approach. And so we do have an online session for all of our students. There are going to be 3 sessions that take place throughout the summer. You'll notice the first session is June 7th through June 11th. The second one is June 21st through the 25th. And the third is going to be July 12th through July 16th. We do also then have an online session right before classes begin that's going to be held August 11th through August 20th. During those online sessions, you are going to have the chance to learn about MSU technology, kind of understanding the academic curriculum here at MSU. You are going to set up a remote advising appointment with your academic advisor and then ultimately register for classes. To be mindful of our advisor's workload and making sure that we're getting everyone the answers that we need, we do have a limited capacity for these programs, even though they're online. And so a registration is required in advance, and we're going to review for you tonight how you register. But please keep in mind that if you're hoping to attend our very first online session and be one of the very first students that registers for classes, I would recommend registering for orientation earlier rather than later. The online orientation is provided through our CATS Connect platform, and it is self-paced. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And we do also have some resources for parents, which we're going to touch on as well. All of our students who complete the required online orientation are going to be asked to pay a $40 non-refundable program fee. That program fee covers the cost of our orientation leader pay, mailings that go out to confirm your attendance, and just some additional program fees for the program being online. We do also then want to offer an optional in-person Bobcat bootcamp throughout the summer. So to be clear, if you just want to come and enroll in courses at MSU, you'll participate in the online orientation. But one of the pieces that we've gotten feedback about throughout the pandemic has been that students are really looking for connection. They're looking to connect with their peers. They're hoping to connect with MSU staff and faculty. And so we are hosting the in-person Bobcat boot camps to kind of fill that need. These are going to be essentially following our online sessions. And so what a student would do is they would complete the online session and register for classes, and then they would be able to register for any of the boot camps that follow that date. So for example, if you attended the online orientation session from June 7th through June 11th, you'll be able to register for all 3 of our Bobcat boot camps. If you attend the online session from July 12th through July 16th, you would only be able to attend the boot camp from July 19th through the 21st. These have a very limited capacity because we are trying to be mindful of how many students we have on campus throughout the pandemic. And so with that, we do have a registration that is also required in advance, and Holly is going to review the registration for that boot camp as well. You do register through the exact same form. The goal of the boot camps is essentially to build community so you can meet other future students, become a little bit more familiar with MSU history and traditions. We're going to have some really cool interactive clinics and outdoor rec opportunities. There's going to be small group activities, and we'll go into all of those pieces in just a moment. The big piece of our Bobcat Bootcamp is that you will be staying on campus for the duration of your program, and we do also have a parent component, which I'll touch on here in a moment as well. For our optional Bobcat Bootcamp, it is going to be a $175 fee. That is in addition to the $40 program fee. So if you register for both, you'll be totaling up to around $215 to both do the online orientation and then also join us on campus for that 3-day program. So to go a little bit more in depth about our online orientation, essentially our online orientations are self-paced. We have a platform that we use here on campus called Cats Connect. Cats Connect is actually where our Office of Student Engagement organizes a lot of different opportunities for events and programs, clubs and organizations. So it is a platform that you get to use throughout your 4 years at MSU, and orientation is just the introduction to that. Throughout that self-paced online orientation, you'll progress through modules, and within each module, you'll have to complete a task. So it might be watching a video, it might be logging into a system, it might be claiming a password, reading through content. And so each module is going to have different instructions for you to make sure that you're retaining all of the information as you go. And after you get through a portion of your online orientation, you schedule an advising appointment, and those are going to be remote. And you work with that academic advisor to discuss the ins and outs of your academic experience. So it might be discussing if you want a double major or if you want a minor. It might be that you have a lot of transfer credit. And so all of these things will be taken into account throughout online orientation, so you can discuss that with your advisor. During your advising appointment, your advisor is going to provide you with a registration PIN, and that's ultimately how you can then move forward with registering for classes. So students are not able to register for classes until they've completed online orientation and they've met with their academic advisor. So all of those pieces are going to be self-paced, but we are also going to be offering live webinars and Q&A sessions. We're going to be offering some opportunities for those orientation leaders to connect with you and answer questions. So a little bit more of some help along the way. Ultimately, our online orientations are 1 week. You have a full week to complete the information and meet with an advisor. But the nice thing is that after that week, this platform is available throughout your 4 years, so you can always refer back to the information that you learn in online orientation. The Bobcat boot camps, as mentioned, you have to complete the online orientation prior to attending. That's because a lot of our Bobcat boot camps are going to build on themes that you hear throughout online orientation. This is really neat because this is the first year that we get to be a little bit more creative in our programming. And so some of the things that we intend to include would be some of our small group activities. This is going to be with your orientation group, and your orientation group is going to be divided based on your college. So if you're in the College of Agriculture, you're going to be meeting students with maybe the same major as you, but also students just within your general college. So you can form a little bit more community there. We are going to be doing some outdoor rec clinics. You can see in the photo there, that is one of our outdoor rec clinics that we hosted during Welcome Week. It was a fly fishing clinic. That next one there, find your classes. Some of you have maybe had the chance to tour campus before coming to orientation, but some of you might not. So this is where you can actually walk around with your schedule. We're going to have our orientation leaders taking you to different rooms, so you have a really good idea of what buildings and where your classes are going to be come fall. We are going to touch a little bit more and build on some of those themes of online orientation. So learning about some of those services and resources available to you. We're going to talk a lot about really cool MSU history and traditions. Some of our photos down there on the bottom kind of touch on some of our traditions. That photo on the left is from our M photo, where everyone gets a yellow t-shirt and gets into the giant shape of an M. On the right there, that's Catapalooza, which is where our students learn about a lot of different clubs and organizations. So we're going to touch on some of these things throughout orientation. We are going to learn a little bit more about the Bozeman community. You're going to be able to connect with many faculty and staff, including faculty from your area of study, and so much more. Ultimately, all of these things take place over 2 days. So the program duration is from mid-morning on Monday when you check in, all the way through until about 10 a.m. on Wednesday. So you do stay on campus in our residence hall for 2 full days, 2 nights, and then you'll check out first thing on Wednesday morning. Throughout the Bobcat boot camps, we are going to be very mindful of some of our COVID-19 practices. You know, by summer, we don't know exactly where we'll be, but we're keeping that in mind throughout our planning. And so we do have some considerations when a student comes to campus and stays with us. We'll have you sign a contract just to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe during their time on campus. For our parents, we do have a Bobcat boot camp set up for our parents. So if a student registers for a session, their parent can register for a session that coincides during those same dates. With that, we do want to remind parents that ultimately this is a student's experience, and so we do keep students and parents separate during the duration of our boot camps, but they do take place at the same time. Our parent boot camps are going to include some informational sessions. It's going to give you the opportunity to connect with faculty and staff, learn a little bit more about how to support your student at MSU. There's going to be Q&A opportunities. You can meet other parents on campus. And ultimately, we're offering all of that for free to our parents because we understand that if your student's already coming, you're probably going to come with them too. So we want to offer some opportunities for you to connect, but free of charge. We do have a note there that we want to ask 1 parent for 1 student. We do have limited capacity for our parent programs as well. So when we register for the student sessions, you will also then have the opportunity to register for 1 parent with those boot camps. All right, moving on here, I am going to let Holly talk, and she's going to walk you guys through a little bit more about the registration process.
Okay, awesome. So now that you're excited about orientation, let's go over how to register, how to view the details of your orientation session, and then what you should be doing before orientation begins. So first, we're going to start with how to register for orientation and class registration. So I'm just going to share my screen here. So we're going to start at montana.edu. This is just our MSU homepage. We're going to skip any sort of steps of clicking anywhere. Let's just search freshman orientation right in the search bar at the top. So this is going to take us to the first option, orientation for freshman students. You can click on this. And then this webpage kind of reviews what Shannon just talked about. So if you forget anything that she says, you can always refer back to this webpage. So let's scroll down here. We're kind of going through what Shannon talked about. We're going to keep scrolling. And then you'll see this section for orientation registration information. So let's click register now. And then this web page goes through the 5 steps that you need to do to register for orientation. So we'll go through these one by one. First, we're going to access MSU's My Info website. This is the student portal that people use all 4 years on campus here. So this is really important. Now that we've clicked in, we can go back to that number 2, claim your net ID. So while students are on campus, you're going to have 2 different ID numbers. One is your student ID. That's an 8-digit number preceded by a dash. And then you're going to have your net ID, and that is a combination of letters and numbers. So the net ID is what we're going to use to log into a lot of the MSU technology platforms. So let's go ahead and find what our net ID is. So we're going to go back to My Info. And since we don't know our net ID and password yet, we're going to click this link that says Claim, Reclaim Net ID. So this is going to take you to a web page that just walks you through claiming your net ID. It's going to ask you a couple questions. So first, you're going to enter your student ID number. That's the one that's the 8 digits, starts with a dash. You can find this on your acceptance letter, and then you hit submit. It's going to walk you through a couple other things. Might ask you security questions or your birthday. So answer that, and then it'll tell you your net ID at the end. And then it'll also have you set up your password. So just follow the instructions on your screen here to claim your net ID. Once you have that, let's go back to the registration instructions. We're going to move down into log into My Info. So we're going to go back to the My Info homepage, and we're going to click log into My Info. So this will take you to a homepage. Your username is actually your net ID. So for example, it's letters and numbers. So it might be something like this. And then you'll type in whatever password you just set. So then once we get logged in, we're going to go view our undergraduate admissions checklist. This is going to be the first thing that you see when you log into My Info. And then if we get up to our undergrad checklist, it'll look something like this. So we're going to scroll down to the orientation and class registration section. And then to register, you're just going to go to the orientation line item, click here to register for orientation class registration. So it's super simple. We'll click that. Your student ID should fill in, but if it's not there, you would have already found it when you claimed your net ID. So you can enter your student ID there. So just fill this out with your personal information. We suggest that parents and students do this together. We're going to be asking some academic information from students, and then this is also where you're going to be paying for orientation. So it's good to have both parties there. So let's say Champ wants to do session 2 of the online orientation. This means that he can choose between Bobcat Bootcamp number 2 or Bobcat Bootcamp number 3. So let's say he wants to do number 3. And then he can also choose whether he wants a parent to come with him. So Champ does want his parent to come. You can also put down what major you're coming in with. It's important that we have the correct major for you. So make sure you're picking something that you want to go through orientation with here. If you do change your mind after you submit this form, that's okay. Just contact your admissions evaluator in the Office of Admissions to change that. So let's say we've filled all this out. We're going to go down to the bottom, confirm the total cost. The fee is non-refundable, and then we'll hit submit at the bottom here. This will now take you to a payment portal where you can pay for orientation with a card. And then once you are done paying, you're going to be redirected to this page here. Don't click off of this. This is really important. So we're just going to let you know that it takes about 2 days to process your orientation registration. So you're not going to see a check mark there quite yet, but we'll work on it. And then before we process your registration, you can actually see the details of your orientation already. So all details of your orientation and registration session can be found here. So let's click that and see what it looks like. We take you to a new web page, and this is super important. We put everything we can possibly think of on this page. So we're going to refer to this a lot. It's going to be really helpful. And if we just go back, let's kind of take a look at where we can find this page. So number 1 is by clicking the link above. You can always bookmark that web page. Number two, we're going to send you a confirmation email once you finish registering. That'll also have a link to this webpage, so you can keep an eye out for that email. Sometimes it goes to a spam folder or a promotions folder, so you can also check those folders if you don't see it. And then third, we're just going to put it right on your undergraduate admissions checklist in My Info, and that's what that 2-day period of us processing it is. So after about 2 days, you'll see that linked. So let's go take a look at what it looks like after it's been processed. So we're back here on your undergraduate admissions checklist. We're down in orientation and class registration. You see a little check mark and it says, thanks for registering. You're confirmed for session 2. To see details of your program, click here. And we're back at that same page. And then let's just talk a little bit about what you should do before orientation begins. And we have everything on this webpage, so let's utilize it. So we're going to click on before you start. So there are 5 main things that we recommend doing before orientation begins. First is knowing your net ID and student ID. We kind of went over that already, but we just want to make sure that you know both of those, know the difference. So again, net ID is the one with letters and numbers. Student ID is just numbers. Number 2, you should fulfill all your immunization requirements as soon as possible, really. So you won't be able to register for your classes until your immunization requirements are met. So we recommend submitting all your required immunization documents well ahead of your orientation session. Our student health service does need a few days to process that. So we don't want you to be, on the 5th day of orientation, just remembered that you have to submit your paperwork and then aren't able to register. So do this now if you can. Third, we just want you to review everything on your undergraduate admissions checklist, that same place that we went to register. So there are a lot of great things on this checklist. Make sure you meet all the application requirements, see if you've qualified for any financial aid. You can submit your housing application, again, immunization requirements, and then last is math placement, which we're adding right now. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Next, we want you to submit all final official transcripts to MSU. So this might include high school transcripts, anything that reflects college credit. So if you did like running start, dual enrollment, any AP or IB scores, and any ACT or SAT scores. And then last, we'll want you to take some math and writing placement exams if you need to. So typically, we use ACT, SAT scores, and college level credit to place students into the appropriate math and writing courses. We know with the pandemic, some students haven't been able to take these tests, so we have developed alternative assessments for those students. We are finishing up these placements, and we'll have more information coming soon, so you can expect this to be filled out in early May. So you want to take care of math and writing placement between early May and then the start of your orientation session. So those were kind of the big things that I wanted to talk about. We talked about registering for orientation. We talked about how to view the details of your orientation session. And then we talked about what you should do before orientation begins. So we can kind of go back to our PowerPoint here. And we'll just review things real quick. So let's just do a quick recap on where we find all this information about orientation. So My Info and your undergrad admissions checklist, that's what we just went through for registering. That is going to be personalized exactly to you. That confirmation webpage that we talked about and also went over kind of the things that you want to do before orientation. That's going to contain all the information that is personalized to your orientation session. Next, you can find the info in that confirmation email that we talked about. That is emailed to you after you finish registering for orientation. And then just in general, you can find information on the orientation website. So you kind of saw that when we started registering for orientation, just the generalmontana.edu. And last, you can always email us or call us. And to kind of conclude, we just have some important reminders and dates. So some reminders for what you should be doing before orientation: know your net ID and student ID, review your undergrad checklist, turn in your housing application. The priority deadline is March 1st, so we recommend doing that in about the next week. Fulfill those immunization requirements as soon as you possibly can. and then send your official transcripts when they're done at your high school, when you have the official scores. And lastly, take those math and writing placement exams if you need to between May and then the start of your orientation session. And we have those important dates on the screen here as well. So we have those 4 sessions for online orientation, the 3 sessions for the in-person boot camps. Move-in is still being decided. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll make an official announcement about that. And then first day of classes is Wednesday, August 25th. And then
awesome. Thanks, Holly. At this time, we'll kind of open it up to questions. So we have gotten a few personalized questions in the chat. Feel free to keep chatting those in as we answer some questions here. One of the questions that we did get asked was, when do I have to register for orientation by? Is there a deadline? There is not a deadline in which you need to register for orientation. It is essentially viewed as a student's intent to enroll with us, so you can make that commitment at any time. The big national push that we often see is by May 1st, but at MSU, you can always register for orientation after that date. We do, of course, recommend earlier rather than later because we do see a capacity for these programs. So if you're hoping to register for classes early in the summer, registering for orientation earlier is going to allow you to do that. Holly, I'm not sure if you have anything else you want to add there.
Yeah, Shannon definitely covered it. We do typically say like May 15th is a great day to decide by. That gives you some time to prepare all these documents that we talked about before orientation starts. But yeah, we don't have a super hard deadline for registering for orientation. That being said, when you're in orientation, we do have hard deadlines. So make sure you're following those dates once we get to those sessions.
That's a great addition. Thanks. One of the questions that we just got in the chat is, will our counselors help us with college credit from Running Start, or is there something that we can do beforehand to meet with them? That's a great question. Our admissions counselors are going to send you a few helpful links here. Any credit that you have from a regionally accredited institution will transfer to MSU. It just depends on what that credit fulfills. So sometimes it can be a direct equivalent course, or sometimes it can fulfill elective credit or general credit as well. We do have a transfer equivalency guide online, and the counselors are going to put that link in the chat. That's where you can actually go and see in advance how all of that credit will transfer. If there is a course that you've taken that is not on that list, it does not mean you do not get credit for it. It just means that we haven't seen it before. So we just have to evaluate your transcript. So the biggest piece there is just making sure that you send us an official transcript when you have completed your coursework. We do not ask for unofficial transcripts or transcripts with classes that are currently in progress, but rather once you have completed that coursework, make sure to send it our way. During your academic advising meeting, they will go over all of these pieces to make sure that any classes that you have, you don't repeat. And so ultimately they'll walk you through course by course to make sure that you're set up for success in your first semester. And that does kind of lead us into one of the other questions that we got. It was asking that they were a little nervous about academic advising and what classes to take. What ultimately does that meeting look like? So it is going to be a meeting and an opportunity for you to connect with one of our staff or faculty advisors in your specific area of study. So if you're coming in as a mechanical engineer, you're going to meet with an engineering advisor. So they really kind of are the experts in their area, and they're going to help you through what your first semester will look like, but they'll also kind of explain the importance of the classes that you need to take your first semester, since many courses do build on one another in your curriculum. So they do help you with all of those pieces. This is really nice because academic advising at MSU is really important to us. You are required to meet with your academic advisor at least once a semester at MSU. So this is just an introduction for ultimately what is going to be a long-lasting relationship. I always joke that I still talk to my academic advisor. I literally emailed her the other day for a letter of recommendation for grad school. And so it is a really valuable, significant relationship that you begin at orientation, but they help you all the way up until you graduate and walk across that stage. All right. One of the other questions that we got are what should we anticipate or what events are included in the Bobcat Bootcamp sessions? So I did kind of go over a little bit in detail some of the things that we anticipate including. I think more than anything, the big goal for us this summer is to make sure that students feel connected to their peers, to MSU faculty and staff, to the MSU community as a whole, and really feel supported in their decision. I think during the pandemic, sometimes it's been kind of hard to visit campus or get a good feel. And so this is a really reassuring opportunity for students to make that connection and make sure that they're ready to go before classes even begin in the fall. I will also mention that during Welcome Week and during move-in, we are going to host a lot of different opportunities for students to try to take advantage of. So that might be a campus tour if you haven't gotten the chance, or maybe that's an opportunity for you to meet with someone in your area of study. And that's going to align with our MSU debut events. MSU debut is essentially the welcome week here at MSU, and so that's where you can kind of connect with some of your peers right when you're moving into your residence hall. You know, it might, you know, traditionally it's been going to like a football game, or they have a giant info fair for clubs and organizations. So they are trying to put together some really COVID-friendly opportunities. And so come fall, they'll have a really good idea of what events they'll be hosting as well. But kind of a nice opportunity come August to still feel connected to the community. All right, I'm not seeing too many other questions popping in. Holly, is there anything that you would like to add before we kind of sign off?
I think we've covered everything. Yeah, it was great to talk to you guys tonight.
Awesome. On the page there, you can see our contact information. Again, you can also always email orientation@montana.edu. We're happy to address any of your questions or concerns. With that, I hope that this webinar has been informative and kind of helps you through the registration process, and we hope to see your orientation registration soon. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.